Hey here. Thanks to everyone for joining us for our May PDEDU, uh, which I think we didn't really give a title to. But in any event, I am Chris Gaffney. I'm the Executive Director of Parkinson's Support and Wellness. PDEDUs are a regular educational event that we have done for years. Prior to the pandemic, we would travel around our service area to do these in person in libraries. Once the pandemic hit, we realized we couldn't do that, so we started doing these virtually on Zoom. So it's been now 4 years, 4+ years, that we've been doing these on Zoom. We think that our experience has been that it's made PDEDUs available to more folks that maybe weren't able to drive to distant points of our service area. So here we are on Zoom. Just a couple of housekeeping items. I will mute everyone's microphone when we get started, so that our speakers won't be interrupted by background noise. And I would ask that if anyone has any questions today, that if you look at the bottom of your screen, usually, sometimes it's across the top, but either top or bottom, you should see a green icon with a black arrow pointing up that says share. And if you click on that, well, actually, you don't have to click on that. Our speakers are going to take care of that. But if you look to the left, there's also one marked chat. And if you click on that, you'll see that there's an opportunity
Now what you do?
that comes up and shows you the ability to place any questions that you have. You can just do them to the group chat, and our speakers will address the questions at the appropriate times during their presentation.
Screened.
We are set to go until 1 o'clock. I will let you know that we do record this session. The recording is in process now. And generally, it takes about 10 days to 2 weeks. We will post an edited version of this PDEDU. You can find the one from today as well as archived ones for the past 3 or 4 years at our website, parkinsoncincinnati.org, and look under the Learning tab. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Maureen, who is on our board of directors as our secretary. She's our medical liaison, and she also is the program committee chair. And that's where these programs come from, is our program committee. So with that, Maureen, if you'd like to jump in.
I would, and we're going to invite Jeanie Bryant this morning. She's an occupational therapist who graduated from OSU. Yay! Practicing OT for 30 years in a variety of settings. And she was working with seniority mobile therapist, but now she's kind of focusing on groups, and she has a hand group and a cognitive group at Parkinson's Community Fitness. And she's also a movement facilitator for Creative Connections for people living with dementia. So she's a certified dementia practitioner, and she's passionate about helping people with Parkinson's disease because she has a direct link to it. Her father and grandfather and grandmother had dementia. Okay. So that's Jeanie. And Lisa will be second. Lisa Caponari, and she represents the company Whole Home Modifications, which helps you with remodeling and renovation in all stages of life. So we all need that. So from home services to emergency services, and things that will really help you be able to live well at home as you age. Okay. So Jeanie's on first. Welcome, Jeanie.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming on such a beautiful sunny day.
I'm going to share my screen. There we go. All right. Can somebody tell me they can see the slideshow screen there?
Yes. Yep.
I see a few of you on here. This might be a little bit of a review. I recognize some names. I've given this presentation before with a little bit of tweaking, but I am here to talk about some adaptive equipment in the home to make activities of daily living easier for people living with Parkinson's disease. And I am an occupational therapist. A little bit of a disclaimer, I'm going to be showing lots of adaptive equipment and pictures. I don't want you going out and running and buying every piece of adaptive equipment I show you. We know that all our journeys, the journeys with Parkinson can be different for everybody. So I do recommend individualized assessments with an OT to assess individual needs. And then occupational therapy, I don't know how many people have had any experience or have had an OT come into their, work with them. But we just try to engage people in meaningful activities, anything you need to do, want to do. We try to work with people on being able to get back to doing that. That could be through modifications, through adaptive equipment, but just participating in important activities in life. And I'm just going to very, very briefly touch on this screen. With Parkinson's, I think, unless you're very, very new in this journey, you know that there are a lot of motor symptoms involved with Parkinson's, and OT does obviously address that. Um, Non-motor symptoms, there that may be not as familiar to a lot of people, but there definitely can be trouble in all these areas. I'm not going to read through everything, but specifically what I work with people to, being also a certified dementia practitioner, is a lot of the cognitive aspects um, of dealing with Parkinson's disease. Because a lot of times people could progress and have dementia with that eventually as that progresses. But obviously, there's a lot of anxiety and sleep problems and problems with bowel and bladder and other things that OT actually can address also. This is in general. Again, I'm not going to read through this whole slide because I do want to get to the adaptive equipment, but ADLs, when I mention ADLs, that's going to be a lot of self-care things: bathing, dressing, grooming, toileting, eating, functional mobility, and some sexual activity are all fall under the ADL realm. And then what we call instrumental activity of daily living are higher things like caring for other people, meal prep, financial management, health management, mobility in the community, um, and those other things under that. And then, of course, what we're going to talk about today are some adaptive equipment to help. We also do caregiver and family training. And with Parkinson's, especially developing routines, because when you take your meds and how that affects your motor abilities, um, trying to come up with not the medication schedule, because that's up to the doctor, but maybe best when to perform some of the activities and things that are important to you. And then just fall prevention's a big one too, and home safety and rest and sleep. All right, so let's get into it here. So for bathing, there's a lot of different types of equipment. One big thing for bathing, obviously, is keeping people safe from falling. So there are a lot of different types of things that you can sit on, whether it be in your shower, just a shower seat. If you have a tub, then there's different types of tub benches, and I will have pictures after this slide for that. Um, Handheld showers, just making sure there's some texture on the floor of the shower, that it's not slippery. That might mean wearing with some shower slippers, water shoes. And then I just mentioned too, it's easier for coordination not to have to open up, pour out like a soap dispenser, so hand and soap pumps might be helpful too. So this is just pictures of some of that equipment, handheld shower, some extensions for a shower sponge, long handled sponge. That's typically thought of for knee and hip replacements, but if people have balance issues or might get dizzy bending over in the shower, that might be helpful. And then that on the right is a bath mitt that you put your soap in. So that helps you keep from losing the soap, from dropping it. Or again, there's like loofahs and hand pumps too that might be helpful for that. And then here are pictures of for tub transfers. There's all different kinds of tub transfer benches out there. The one on the left's pretty fancy. You can go from the toilet and slide on over in the tub if you need to. The one in the middle is it can be used in the shower, but it also can be used as a bedside toilet. And the one on the right is just, it can swivel, so it's a little bit easier to get into. And then we also help with toilet and hygiene. So the picture there is an extender that you can put some toilet paper in if you have difficulty reaching or twisting. Um, and then the next pictures, well, I didn't put pictures in there, but I'll show pictures of the raised toilet seats in a little bit. But there's also things like if you can't get to the bathroom, urinals, if at night it's difficult, there's the PureWick urine collection system. I know they use those in the hospitals now. Sometimes if people are not safe getting out of bed, and that just will help collect urine at night if for some reason getting out of bed at night is a safety issue. And here are the pictures of the examples of different toilet seats. There's frames, there's just arms that you can add to the toilet, or that's the two on the left, or a frame that might help somebody be able to stand up easier. And then there are raised toilet seats, because if you have a standard height toilet at your home, it might be too low to get up and down off of. So you can add a raised toilet seat, or the one on the one is a bedside commode, second from the right. That one can be used by the bed if there's trouble getting up at night, getting to the bathroom, or you can take the bowl out at the bottom and put that over the toilet also, and that gives a nice sturdy, rigid frame for getting up and down too. The other option too, a lot of people don't know, is a lot of older houses might have a standard height toilet, but if you have somebody who's handy to switch out to a comfort height toilet in your house, that will also raise the height of your toilet. Okay, so dressing and grooming. The picture here is a button hook. A lot of times buttoning can be an issue for people with coordination, so that can help pull the button through. But there's also adaptive clothing. There's magnetic buttons, Velcro, although Velcro might be a little hard pulling apart if it's really good Velcro. But magnetic buttons, and just changing. There's so many different types of clothing out there now that is easier to put on. And slip-on shoes, like, I'm not promoting any type of shoes, but you know, I'll see those Skechers commercials where you can just put your foot in, slip on. You do need to make sure any shoes you're wearing are fit tight, though. They're not going to slide off and prevent a fall risk. And then zipper pulls, just making zippers larger, putting on like maybe even around those round things that hold, they're like in supply, office supply. They're round that you can put on, or like a keychain hook that might make it easier to do zippers, and just longer handles, long handled shoe horns and things. And there are holders, like the holders that they use to hold your hair dryer at the salons. You can put those possibly in the house or mount them to the wall if you have difficulty holding a hair dryer and doing your hair. And this is some examples of the other dressing equipment. On the left, it's pretty typical for people who cannot bend over far and reach their feet. There's a long shoe horn, reachers, a dressing stick, long-handled sponge, and a sock aid. And the one on the right is more of a rigid frame sock aid. It's an example, And that those are helpful if you're trying to put on compression hose. They're very hard to put on, and you'll see there are gloves there, and the gloves will help kind of give some friction to kind of pull it up your leg. You can kind of rub it and get it up your leg easier. And I can't see the chat on my screen right now. Were there any questions about
None
anything
so
that I talked about so
No,
far?
none so
Okay.
far, Jeannie, but I did just place a reminder to everyone that if you do have any questions, look for the chat icon on your screen, click that, and then you can just type in your message.
Okay. And now just to some adaptive equipment for eating. Obviously, coordination and dyskinesia and tremors can be an issue with eating. So I have a couple like things, specific things for using the plate guard, a scoop plate. Dyson is just a sticky, it's like a stickier placemat type thing you can put under things to help things from sliding. Some people will tell me they try to use the shelf liner to might help that you can buy at the store. Travel mugs will help, obviously, to prevent from spilling. And if it's a little bit heavier, if you don't have wheat grass, that might help too, kind of stabilize and help with the tremors.
Hey,
And then,
hey, Jeannie.
yes.
Anne wants to know if you have anything to assist with shaving aids for men.
Okay, so a couple things I think about with people are, and this is comes to an individual evaluation with people, but are you sitting or able to stand very stable in a stable way? So for instance, I had a client who was always coming out and his wife's like, he's like cutting himself all the time. And when I went and observed, he's trying to stand and has pretty significant dyskinesia in his legs. So he's not stable. So he's moving and like trying to shave with a regular razor at the same time. So for him, it was being seated and then using a mirror and sitting and setting up in a seated position. One thing we do recommend, and I know a lot of men don't like them, but sometimes if a regular razor isn't going to work, an electric razor is a little bit easier to use. It's less risk for, cutting yourself. Sometimes maybe a built up handle on the razor might help. I will be showing universal cuffs here in a little bit too, if it's a matter of feeling like you're gonna not get a good enough grip and drop the razor. So that's some different ideas. Or obviously, I mean, in the long term, having help. Sometimes people choose to go to a barber when they go to the barber and get, say, get a beard trimmed or different things like that too. So, did that help? I don't know. That helped answer somebody's question. And then there's different types of utensils. I will be showing pictures. Again, being larger handles, textured handles help sometimes that they're not as slippery and you can hold it easier. So the Co-Band it's like a stretchy. Sometimes they'll use it when they put like take an IV and they'll use this stretchy stuff to go around to hold the bandage on for a little bit, and it's kind of like a stretchy band-aid, and you can buy it in a roll. But sometimes just wrapping that around something can give you a little bit extra grip on something to give some friction there so you're less likely to drop something. And that's a very cheap way you can do that, take it off and on. And then the universal cuffs I'll show. Um, Sometimes swallowing, I mean, with the tremors, being able to hold things and drink out of something and lift it up. Sometimes straws help if there's not a swallowing concern, because sometimes the speech therapist, if you have swallowing issues, might not, a straw may be not recommended for that. Sometimes there's a one-way valve straw where you like suck up and it won't let it go back down into the cup. And then just modifying food. Sometimes, you know, soup may not be the best thing to choose if you're going out. Sometimes it might be harder to eat with tremors and dyskinesia. So finger foods might be better. I say sticky foods. So if you're chasing peas around on your plate, if you really love peas or things that are going to move a lot, also having like a sticky food like mashed potatoes that maybe you could scoop into that, and it might help you pick those things up easier and they're not going to fall off the spoon. And then always remember when you're eating, proper positioning, sitting up, not leaning backwards, laying down, to decrease swallowing, or risk for choking. And then here are some pictures. The thing on the left is a nosy cup. So if you have trouble tilting your head back to drink, the cutout there is your nose would go into that, so you don't have to tip your head back as far. And then there are all different kinds of adaptive utensils. Some people find weighted utensils help. Some people don't. Some people find lighter weight utensils help if they have a weak grasp. There's extended utensils. There's curved, you see a curved utensil down there on the right. And then the really fancy, there's different, I think it's, I always forget, I had it listed. I think it's called Giano, or I'm not sure how to pronounce it, in liftware, make the fancy self-stabilizing spoon that you see up on the far right. And those are a little bit pricey. I've seen those run a starter kit being like $199. So there are videos online you can see of people using those, and it might be an option for you. And then just to help getting food on your spoon, there's a plate guard on the left that will clip onto an existing plate. They do come in different sizes, so if you order that, watch what size you're getting. And then on the right is a different kind of scoop plate that's got suction on the bottom so the plate doesn't move. I mean, these typically we see with people with one-handed, that can only use one hand, but I think they are really helpful. I've had clients it'd be helpful for scooping things up onto their spoons. So, and they make like a soup bowl type thing too to help. And then this is just example of universal cuffs that you can put on different items on the left, and one for just specifically like maybe a utensil or even a toothbrush on the right. And just if you're having dyskinesia and you're going to tend to drop things a lot, this might help be able to keep a grasp on a utensil or a ADL, or just any kind of anything you need to hold onto. Any questions about any of that? Okay. And then I did want to talk about meal prep. There are all different types of things for meal prep, and I'll show some pictures of the kettle tippers and bowl tippers. But a big thing is just energy conservation. Maybe being seated when you're doing things, if you can be seated. I mentioned on there a perch stool, just like it's like a higher stool that some people use these during COVID too, when they had to do a lot of desks, sitting at a desk, that you're still having your feet on the ground, but you're sitting up higher. Like think maybe like bar stool height, but it's still, if it's going to be stable enough for you. Again, this is an individual thing. It might not work for everybody, but being able to sit so you can at least maybe reach the counter. But it helps conserve energy. It helps, if there's a balance concern, especially while you're holding, if you're cutting something with a knife or anything like that. And along with energy conservation, there are so many things now. All this pre-made food delivery services that I'm sure you see advertisements for, or you can go to a lot of supermarkets now and buy already packages of a meal that's already all cut up, and you can buy it and you might just have to throw it in the skillet and cook it. That helps. And food delivery too. So then I'll go on and share. So this is examples on the right of the kettle tipper, just different things for blade, instead of chopping, food processors, using those instead of standing there chopping a lot will help conserve energy. And then the example on the left is a rocker knife that might help. It's got a better grip on it. And then there's a bowl tipper. If you like to cook or need to or have difficulty holding something heavy, that might help pour things out. And then on the left is an adaptive cutting board. The little nails just help hold and stabilize things, and the edges there, if you're trying to do something in like a piece of bread scooting around or something, you can butter bread, put peanut butter on bread. And here's more examples. On the right of an adaptive cutting board, that one you can actually put a vegetable or even a jar or something in there and then clamp it down, and it helps hold the jar to twist it off. And then there's the nails on that too to help hold things. And I didn't put on here jar openers, but there is a lot of different types of adaptive jar openers you can find online. Electric ones, ones you can mount under your cabinet that can help twist, and then just all sorts of things that typically people with arthritis might use, but it might also be helpful with Parkinson's disease. And then on the left, if you like to chop things, those are protectors for your fingers, metal protectors. So um, you don't accidentally cut the hand that's if you are going to hold a food. Um, and the little blue ones are just for individual fingers. And the little metal ones are fingers. The other ones you hold and can protect all your knuckles, your whole hand pretty much. Any questions on that? Okay. And then everybody is different place in their journey with Parkinson's disease. And so I do want to say that as Parkinson's disease progresses, and if there starts to be cognitive difficulties, then learning new equipment might not be the best thing for somebody. Just practicing, keeping things as familiar as possible might be the best thing. Using internal cueing might be helpful in the beginning, in the first few stages of Parkinson's. So self-talk to yourself, talking through the steps of something, mentally rehearsing, thinking through what you're going to do for each step, and even imagery. Imagine you're doing it. Especially for transfers, sometimes it's helpful. If you freeze and you get stuck, you might need to imagine stepping over a log or thinking about a mental imagery type thing, or even having a visual to step to on the floor to move your feet. So it might be also helpful, again, when you're transferring and things for ADLs. So again, this is all very individualized types of cueing that would need to be assessed of what's helpful for you. And then, of course, your care partner, external cueing from the care partner might also help. Saying the steps, sit down, grab the button, find the hole. Just walking through those one, and it might take, if somebody has dementia or having cognitive issues, very simple one-step directions will help with that also. And then just visuals, visual cards, and verbal prompting may also help for ADLs.
Jeanine, we do have a question
Okay.
from the audience asking, other than Amazon, are there specific websites you like that specialize in adaptive tools?
There's a lot of if you if you if you Google things, sometimes you'll pull up other things. I mean, there's like Salmon's Preston. There's a bunch of the medical still like catalog. They used to be catalog type companies out there. But if you Google something, sometimes it won't pull up just Amazon. It'll show you some different places that you can order things. Walmart also carries a lot of adaptive equipment now too. Because I know not everybody has Amazon. So, and Amazon, the nice thing about it was you could try things. I don't know if they're changing their policy anytime soon about making a lot of returns, but yeah. So I don't know if that answered. I don't have um, like specific companies because everybody might handle different types of equipment. Like some might handle more of the tub benches and bigger things, and other people might handle more of the smaller things.
Can
But
I
I would
say
say,
too, Jeannie, just
go
in
ahead.
regards to demographics, I'm not sure where everybody lives. On the west
Mhm.
side of Cincinnati, we have a company called Burnins Medical in Price Hill. Mulaney's Medical, there's a couple of those left, one in Cheviot, I'm pretty certain. And I think along the lines of Walmart carrying a lot of equipment. I'm always surprised how much Walgreens has as well. So
True.
hopefully that helps.
Yeah, and even like and CVS when I went in there the other day, they had a whole aisle full of of things. So I think you can buy like tub seats, if I'm not wrong. Some of those places, yeah, even those stores like that, like Walmart, Walgreens, and CVS, you can buy some even a little bit of the bigger adaptive equipment too. Any other questions?
Not right now.
Okay. All right. Well, I will pass it over to Lisa then. Stop sharing.
Lisa, you're muted. There we go.
There we go. Thank you. I'm going to share my screen with you and a little bit more perhaps about my background. In my first life, I was a physical therapist assistant for 35 years. I always worked with geriatrics. It was always a pleasure to work with older adults. And my particular favorite area of practice was neurological disorders, primarily stroke and Parkinson's, actually. So when I decided to recreate myself and landed in the lap of people working cooperatively in whole home modifications, it gave me an opportunity to continue to play therapist just kind of from the other side of the table. So instead of patching people up after an event, I feel like now I'm on the educating side of the table, and hopefully we can give people situations and set up environments so they can be successful at home. So People Working Cooperatively is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to serve those with disabilities and low-income families with critical home repairs so they can maintain occupancy in their home if they don't have a lot of discretionary income to do that. We were finding that a good deal of our clients lived in their house for 50 years, it was bought and paid for. But the problem was that their bodies were actually not lending themselves to continuing to live in a home, perhaps where the only bathroom is on the second floor. And now they have got arthritic issues with their knees, or they have some sort of a neurological disorder where making their way up the steps is a daunting proposition. So that's how whole home modifications came to be. Think of it as contractors with an eye for breaking down barriers and creating spaces that are safer, and they allow you to age in the home gracefully. So hopefully you are looking at a screen that shows a virtual home in front of you. This is a website that each and any one of you could visit if you were so inclined, and kind of run through this on your own. But today I thought we would do it together. These blue dots, if you click on those, just give you a little information about what we mean by exterior lighting and what the importance is. I think everybody could appreciate that it's helpful to have light when you enter the home, if not for you, for the guests that come to your home. Important for safety, as far as discouraging people from doing things perhaps that we wouldn't want them to do on our property, from intruders. Keep in mind that one really neat application for lighting is now lighting that does the work for you. So it's set up to come on at dusk and come and turn off at dawn. So it's foolproof. You don't have to worry about it. If you go out to dinner with your friends and it's light time like now, and then you come home and you forget that by the time you get home in the fall, it gets dark at 7 o'clock in the evening, and it's a dark environment. So if you've forgotten to turn on the switch, these dawn to dusk lights will do that for you, kind of a foolproof way. Can't say enough about having good graspable railings, if possible, on both sides of the steps. Sometimes we have one arm that's a little stronger than another, or one side of the body that has some sort of a neurological deficit that doesn't allow us to grip a railing. So having multiple options is helpful. Think about things that maybe you hadn't considered. House numbers. This is an important concept, particularly if medical personnel have to come to your house in an emergency situation. You don't want them to have any pause in finding or locating your home. So house numbers are a great solution for that. The neat thing about this, this virtual home, if you will, is that it gives you future options of things that aren't shown presently on the home in the picture. Things like external stair lifts that allow you to get up the steps, or ramps. And ramps are a particular sweet spot of ours. We put in a lot of ramps across the city, most of them without charge because they are for clients who are income eligible for our services. But the beauty of the ramps that we use, they're sort of a modular system, so they can be put together like a puzzle piece and configured in any way that would accommodate the terrain of the property. Let's see, if we move on to the garage, here again, we have to consider how accessible that space is. Automatic garage door openers are a wonderful way to wrangle the garage door without putting forth a lot of effort of your own. Houses on a hill. I think of the Delhi folks. Goodness, I think every house in Delhi has a number of stairs to enter the home, a lot like the one shown. So that gets a little tricky. This is where considerations for external stair lifts might prove to be a need. Folks can enter the home very often through the garage if the front porch is elevated, but then basement stairs are always sort of a dicey proposition for a lot of people. Not everybody has a finished basement that has a nice set of steps with 2 handrails. Perhaps they are old and creaky, or they're steep and take us to an unfinished area that's dark and dingy. So just adding lighting to the space. Stair lift is another opportunity here, but certainly a second handrail can be extraordinarily helpful. This is just an example of a stair lift. They can go around curved surfaces. That does lend itself to a little bit more expense once you add a stair lift with a turn to it. Sometimes the best option is to put in a stair lift on one bank of stairs and then a second one. That would assume that the person using that device would actually be able to get up and move to the next chair surface. So I think what I like to mention here in foyer areas is that this bench here provides an opportunity for folks to sit down, maybe to take off or put on shoes, particularly if the weather is inclement and you're tracking in things from outside like snow or rain. It's nice to get those wet shoes off of your feet so they don't pose a slipping hazard in and of their own. I am not one of those physical therapists who says get rid of all throw rugs. I think a strategically placed throw rug with a good rubber backing can be extraordinarily helpful, particularly here at the entrance of the home. Maybe one on the outside of the home to catch the residual moisture on your shoes, and then one just on the inside of the home, particularly if you're coming into a hardwood or tile surface where slippery wet shoes could prove to be a real hazard. This is about a landing station. We talked about a place to sit. I think on a personal note, if I don't put my purse and my keys in the same place every day, I would quickly forget where they are and be looking for them when I'm ready to leave. So it's nice to have a place where all of those things reside and you can be nice and organized. This home lends itself to a nice open walking path. This cartoon is a little funny. It's a representation of a home that has a lot of things going wrong, a lot of clutter, a lot of trip hazards like cords and stairs without railings. And my personal favorite is the smoke detector that's open without the battery. We'll often ask our clients, do you have a smoke detector? And they'll say, oh yeah. And I'll ask them, is it working? At which point they say, oh no, I took the battery out 4 years ago because it was chirping and I got tired of listening to it. So, you know, it looks funny, but I'm here to tell you, I go into a lot of clients' homes where a lot of these offenses are taking place at the same time. The clutter, the cords, the wearing slippers, having rugs that don't fix to the floor very readily, and they're moving around. So it's meant to be comical, but in truth, it can be a real hazard. So moving on to the living room. I think if I had to say one thing about living room spaces, I would say, or the spaces that you reside in most frequently. Most of us, I think, have 3 or 4 areas of our house that we spend most of our time. Just make it easy for yourself. Eliminate that clutter. Think about the spaces being opened. Maybe you have a lot of furniture that you really enjoy because you collect antiques, for instance. But the more you put in that room, the more hazards you're putting upon yourself for navigating that space. Particularly if you're using a walker or a cane or even a wheelchair, I think once you start using those assistive devices, the space can tend to get small. My husband's been in a wheelchair for 43 years. We have a nice ranch home and it's nice and open in concept, but we know how things start to get small when you're in a wheelchair full time, a power chair. And I come home from the store. If I leave my groceries in his way, then that's just posing a hazard and a nuisance for him. So think about that. A little word about rugs. They're going to talk about how area rugs are great. I think there's a place for area rugs. We see in a lot of our clients' homes, they want to protect their wall-to-wall carpet, so they start putting carpet on top of carpet. My mother used to do this. She wanted to put carpet on top of the carpet to protect her floors so they didn't get dirty. And I appreciate the concept, but keep in mind that carpets aren't meant to be on top of carpets. And then with time, a lot of times the throw rugs and those little auxiliary carpets will roll up on the corners, and that in and of itself will pose a hazard. So you can always tape down the corners of those carpets if that's helpful. We've already talked about lighting options to turn lights on and off without your need to do that. Lights on timers, that can be extraordinarily helpful and a good safety measure too, as far as people coming into your home. They might be discouraged if they see lights are on, even if you're not there, they see there's lights coming on and off. And so it's a deterrent. Can't say enough about smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors. If you don't have these in your home, please do yourself a favor and get those installed. If you reach out to your local fire department, they will oftentimes put those in for you without charge. I think October is Fire Safety Awareness Month, and that's when they'll have a big sort of a campaign to put smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors in their residents' homes in their jurisdiction. But if you need it now, reach out to them and explain your situation. I feel pretty confident they would help install those in your home. Unlike the ones in the old days when we had to replace the battery every year, they make smoke detectors now that have 10-year batteries. So that's quite a long time you have to go without worrying about that. Laundry options. This is a nice, pretty laundry room. Boy, I'd love to have one of these myself. I think the benefit of this washer and dryer system is that they have been put up on platforms. Now, perhaps you don't have these front loaders. You have a standard washer with a top loading option. I believe there are still potential for building those up on a platform so that you don't have to bend down so far to get your laundry in and out. These without platforms can prove to be very difficult to get to the back of the washing machine to get those small items like socks, for instance. You might say to yourself, but Lisa, my washer and dryer is in the basement. And for a lot of people, that's the only reason they have to go to the basement, because that's where their washer and dryer is. Well, perhaps you want to reconsider relocating the washer and dryer to a closet. A stackable washer and dryer unit can be relocated to a closet, and it will be a space saving sort of a unit. Generally speaking, very appropriate for people who are just don't have children at home, or they don't have a large amount of laundry to do. But it eliminates that need for them to go to the basement for laundry. Contrasting colors can be a very interesting concept for people of the older persuasion, like myself. I've got cataracts. They're not quite bad enough that I need surgery yet, but I have recognized that my vision isn't as crisp. So believe it or not, contrasting colors, they're making an example here that if my commode is white and my sink is white and my cabinets are white, and I have the walls in that room painted a light color, and I have low vision because of my glaucoma or macular degeneration or diabetic retinopathy, it's going to be a little harder to recognize where the commode is in relationship to depth perception. So painting that wall a darker contrasting color gives you a little bit better identification of where things are, particularly if you're navigating that room in the dark at night. So they're always going to talk about lighting in every room. There's no such thing, I don't think, as too much lighting. We remodeled our kitchen some time ago and we put in can lights. I don't know what I did before we had can lights. I'm sure I fumbled with preparing meals in the dark. Some of this kind of plays into what Jeanie was saying. I think the takeaway for this is just make life easier and organize your kitchen in such a way that things that you use most often are accessible to you. So the Thanksgiving platter that you use once a year is going to go up above the refrigerator, out of the way. That frees up space for other things that you use most often. This is an example of a pull down shelf. We could have used this for my mother when she was alive. She was very, very short. She was 5'8". And so anything she tried to grasp overhead proved to be a fall hazard for her because she would lose her balance backwards when she reached overhead. So this is just an example of a retrofitted shelf system. It can be put into any cabinet, and it allows you to bring those items down to your level, and then it's spring loaded, so it will recoil back up into its space where it resides when you're not using it. This is kind of a neat little system here that just allows you to hang your items that you use most frequently on this sort of a shelving system. So everything is right there in easy reach. There are no touch faucets that allow you to activate the water without reaching for the handle. They kind of work on a motion system. They recognize that you need them by waving over. I always think I'd like to have this after I finish putting together meatloaf or meatballs, something that's got my hands all dirty. And once again, this is just an example of a system that you can use in the kitchen. Okay, moving on to the bedroom. Let's talk about the height of the bed. This is becoming increasingly an issue for my husband and I. We like to travel. I shared with you that he's confined to a wheelchair. He does not stand or walk on his own in any capacity. I am his movement system. We travel and finding that the bed height in a lot of the hotels are becoming increasingly higher. And that's tough for people who can't transfer from unlevel surfaces to a higher surface or a lower surface. So the bed height is an important consideration. You might want to consider taking the casters off your bed to make it lower if you're finding that the bed is getting too high for you. There are also options for accessory components like bed rails, both to help you stay in the bed safely so you don't accidentally roll out, or even ones that work to help you get up from the bed. Overhead trapeze systems and rails. We talked about the bed height. The bench would just serve as an opportunity for you to sit to dress. I think Jeanie showed some really nifty options for dressing tools, but trying to stand and dress, a lot like shaving and standing, can be a dicey proposition. So we always recommend that people sit to put their pants on, even their shirt, so you don't get disoriented as you're pulling it over your head. A bench could prove to be a nice place to do that. Having a phone close by to your sleeping quarters so that if there was an emergency, you have some sort of a way to reach out in an emergency situation if you need help. Some people have systems through Alexis that allow them to call out to Alexis to call for emergency help. I like these down lights on either side of the bed because I think it proves to be a nice way to illuminate the room softly. For instance, if you're making your way to the bathroom, we talk a lot about using night lights. Again, the dawn to dusk ones that are plugins that are LED that just do their thing so that you always have a little illumination when you're making your way to the bathroom in the middle of the night. Smoke detectors are best placed outside sleeping quarters because that's where we are at most risk because we're not awake and alert to know if something's happening in the home that we need to exit the home. And clear paths, just so that you don't have to climb over dirty clothes or dog toys or a treadmill that you never use to get to the bathroom. So accessible space on either side of the bed so that you've got a nice clear path. Some of this is common sense, but it's good to go over it. I think the bathroom is the area of the home that we're most at risk for falling because we are wet and we're on hard, slippery surfaces. So here's where an example of a good rubber-backed mat that stays put, that clings to the floor. I think that's an excellent use of a throw rug because right here, as you step out of the shower, is a great way to drip off on something that you know is safe and won't get away from you. So I would give a thumbs up to a good throw rug. Keeping in mind that, if you're about to remodel your bathroom and you go to the tile store and you look at some of those beautiful tile options that look like marble and they're nice and shiny and they're big swatches of tiles that are like 20 by 20 and not the little ones that we probably all grew up with in our parents' homes. Those are beautiful, but they prove to be very slippery in a bathroom situation. So there are products that you can put on tile that give them a little bit of a grit. There are similar products, for instance, that people put on their decking. It's a paint. It can be in a decking situation. It can be a paint with a little built-in grit that gives it a resistance or traction on those slippery surfaces. So sometimes when you're shopping for tile, there are tiles that have a similar coating on them. Jeanie already did a good job about talking about comfort height commodes. As we get older, it's nice to have that little elevated seat because it's tougher to get up from low surfaces. So if you don't have a comfort height commode and that's not in your budget, she showed you some great options for clip-on toilet features that are more affordable that you can get at places like Mulaney's and Vernon's. This one happens to be a motorized toilet riser. This probably wouldn't be indicative for somebody who is having trouble getting up off the commode. It's more to help the caregiver with their loved one who needs help with hygiene. It raises them up a lot like the lift chairs that you're probably familiar with, so that the caregiver can access their private area to help with hygiene. I think installing a bidet system is a great option for hygiene as well. If I come around here and look at the shower itself, boy, isn't that a magnificent shower. It's not always in everybody's budget, but if it were, it's set up quite nicely with the back grab bar on the back wall. Some of these grab bars today don't have to look extraordinarily institutionalized, if you will. Grab bars come in they come in different, oh my goodness, I'm having a moment. finishes. That's what I'm trying to say, like brushed nickel, oil rubbed bronze. They come in acrylics to match your home if your taste is mid-century modern, for instance. Some of them are kind of fun because this one, it holds a towel. So if people come to your home and they see a towel hanging from this, they might not know automatically that that's a grab bar. So it wouldn't scream grab bar. This one holds your toilet paper, but it also functions as a grab bar that you can apply up to 350 pounds of pressure to, and it's still going to hold that. Jeanie already mentioned the handheld shower sprayer. Do yourself a favor. If you don't have one of these, go to Home Depot and get one. It is so nice to have something you can pull down to your level. Just make sure you get one that has a pause control feature so that when you're soaping up and you don't want the water delivery, that water's not going everywhere, you can reduce the water delivery to a trickle with the pause control button. But boy, they are so helpful. And if you don't have, if you don't have a built-in seat, this is just as an example of a flip down one, but Jeanie also did a good job of showing us portable ones that can be put in and taken out of the space very readily. So a lot about bathrooms, but I think that brings us back to the beginning. I'm going to say one other thing. I think I'm going to stop sharing here for a second, unless anybody has any questions about that virtual home. No. Oh, we got one question here, perhaps. Reminder to type your questions into the box. Oh, thank you, Christopher. Thank you. I am going to stop sharing because I want to say a word about fall prevention. One of the things I love about working for people working cooperatively in whole home is they put a lot of energy into the community on fall prevention. So we look at the health of the home. We don't just look at the nuts and bolts of the structure, but the air quality of the home. Does the home have radon? Does it have lead paint that can be particularly toxic to your grandchildren who might visit you frequently? Is there a mold issue because there are leaky faucets that are creating black mold that make it difficult because it doesn't matter how much medicine the doctor gives us in regards to asthma and emphysema if we're constantly being exposed to poor air quality in the home. The other thing is we recognize the importance of putting in these safety features like grab bars and ramps and tub cuts, because not only does it knock down barriers for mobility, but it's also providing an avenue to allow people to age gracefully in the home. And with that, we provide a lot of education in the community about fall prevention. There is a national evidence-based program called Stepping On. It is a 7-week program. We talk each week about a different aspect of safety as it pertains to falls, things like medicine management, vision changes, home hazards, fire safety. So each week's curriculum looks a little different. What I love about the curriculum that we offer is we provide it in the community for free all the time. I'm presently teaching one in Bond Hill. I have 4 more slated to take place in Price Hill, Amberley Village, Mount Airy, and Coleraine. So perhaps 2 in Woodlawn and Wyoming. These are always free, always open to the community. So if any of you online today have interest in finding out more about fall prevention, perhaps Christopher can help me to get that information to you so that you have direct line to me. We would love to get you signed up for classes. Here's the perk of taking part in my fall prevention education is that anybody who goes through my 7-week series, it's once a week, 2 hours a week, they're eligible for a free home assessment. So I can come to your home, I could walk through your home, lay eyes on the spaces you have concerns about, perhaps offer some recommendations. With that, you do whatever you want. There's no pressure to do anything. I'm just offering you that home assessment as a perk of taking my fall prevention. And we will also give each homeowner 3 or 4 hours of free work in the home. And generally that means the installation of a grab bar for free, or a second banister to the basement, or maybe your porch rail needs shoring up because it's getting wobbly. That is all an option, not required, just an option for people who take my programming. So I love it. That's what I love about still being able to play therapist and being on the other side of the table, educating folks. So I think that about wraps it up.
Thanks,
Thank you
Lisa.
so much.
And yeah, we're happy to be a conduit for you, to anyone that does have an interest in reaching out to Lisa. You can check with us at the office. You can send an email to info@parkinsoncincinnati.org. Our phone number is 513-558-0113. And Lisa, I'll get together with you and with Jeanie and make sure we get some information that we can put on our resources page on our website.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to remind everybody that you can go to our website, which is parkinsoncincinnati.org. And not sure why all of a sudden we lost ourselves, but there we are. And you go to our homepage, you will see that we do have a number of tabs under Learning, PD/EDU. This was today's. We have an upcoming PD/EDU in June, on June 21st. It's planning for hospitalizations, and it will be led by our own Maureen Gardner. We will open up registration for that in just a few days. You scroll down further, you will be able to see thumbnails and a listing of past PD/EDUs. Give us about a week and we'll have today's presentation up as well. With that, we are exactly 1 hour in, and that's what we asked you to pledge. So we appreciate your joining us today. Look forward to you joining us in June on the 21st. And as I said, we'll have a description out and registration for that up in just a couple of days. Maureen, any further comments?
So I just wanted to address the question by the Burtons. How do we reach you about that class? I think that's meant for Lisa.
Yeah. As if I get the information to yourself or Christopher, would that be helpful?
That would be great, unless you want to tell them right now. Either way.
Let me say this. I'm going to give you my, I guess I could put it in the chat or just read it out loud. I can give you a number to reach me.
Okay.
It is 513-482-5101.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks so much to both of you. Presentation was great and very helpful. And I think we can sign off, right, Chris?